Every day you are becoming someone, whether you realize it or not. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly become more confident, become more disciplined, more successful. You don't suddenly become free. You become those things the same way you've become everything else you've ever been, by repeating a version of yourself until it feels like the old version that exists. That's what most people never understand. They're trying to change their life without changing the person who's living it, and that never lasts. Most people think transformation happens because they learned something new, or they read another book, watched another video, listened yet to another podcast. Then they wonder why nothing changes. Because information doesn't build identity, repetition does. You can know exactly what to do and still keep producing the same life. And why is that? Well, because every day you're rehearsing the same personality, the same reactions, the same fears, the same expectations, the same emotional patterns. You're practicing being the person you've always been without even realizing you're practicing. And here's something most people never stop to think about. Every reaction is a practice. Every complaint is a practice. Every excuse is a practice. And every moment you tell yourself, I'm just not that kind of person, well, you're practicing becoming that person again. Identity isn't something hidden inside you. It's something you perform so often that eventually your mind accepts it as truth. That's why people feel trapped, not because reality is trapping them, because they're rehearsing the same identity every single day. So what's the daily practice? Well, it's surprisingly simple. Become aware of who you're being, not what you're doing, who you're being while you're doing it. There's a huge difference. You can wash dishes as someone who's overwhelmed or angry, or as someone who's calm. You can walk into work expecting, oh, great, another terrible day, or you can expect new opportunities. You can answer a message from fear or from confidence. Same action, completely different identity. And most people only pay attention to their actions. Very few pay attention to the states from which those actions are coming. But that's where your future is being written. This is where people get stuck, though. They think, I'll become confident once things improve. I'll become peaceful once my problems disappear. I'll become abundant once I have more money. And no, that's not the way. It's the other way around. The identity comes first. Then your decisions begin changing. Your conversations begin changing. Your standards begin changing. And your opportunities begin changing. Little by little, your reality starts catching up. And not because the universe suddenly rewarded you, but because you're no longer making decisions from the same version of yourself. Reality doesn't respond to what you wish. It reflects what you consistently are. That's why affirmations often don't work. People repeat words for 10 minutes, then spend the next 14 hours thinking like the old version of themselves. Which identity do you think wins? The one practiced longer, every single time. And here's something you can begin today. Several times throughout your day, stop and ask yourself one question. Who am I being right now? Not what am I doing? Who am I being? Am I being fearful, defensive, resentful, patient, creative, curious, present? Because the answer to that question tells you exactly which identity you're strengthening. If you don't like the answer, choose again. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when life becomes easier, but now. One decision, one moment, one conversation, one response at a time. That's how identity changes. People imagine transformation as one huge breakthrough. In reality, it's thousands of invisible moments. Choosing patience instead of anger, choosing courage instead of avoidance, choosing responsibility instead of blame, choosing awareness instead of reacting automatically. Nobody applauds those moments. Nobody even sees them. But those are the moments that build a completely different human being. Eventually, something interesting happens. People start treating you differently. New opportunities appear. Old problems disappear. Not because life suddenly becomes generous, because the person creating your reality isn't the same anymore. The old version simply stopped showing up, and reality had no choice but to respond to the new one. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's this. You don't become who you want to be someday. You become who you repeatedly practice being today. Every thought, every reaction, every decision, every ordinary moment, they're all votes for the person that you're becoming. So tomorrow, when you wake up, don't ask yourself, what do I have to get done today? Ask yourself, who am I practicing becoming today? Because if you can consciously answer that question day after day, there will come a point where the old version of you feels like someone you used to know. That's when your life truly begins to change. If this resonated with you, subscribe, because this channel isn't about collecting more information. It's about becoming conscious of the person creating your reality. It's about remembering who you are and living the life you were always meant to live. And if you're ready to begin that shift, leave the word practice in the comments. I'd love to know who you're choosing to become next.